Cult-de-sac by both chronic and psyoptic nerve. This has really gone too far, I think, tugging at a mask that keeps slipping over my eyes. I mean, seriously, what the F am I even doing right now? We were so excited when we found this place. Kate and I wanted to settle down, maybe start a family, and buy a minivan with all those atrocious stick figure people on the back of it. And Shady Acres seemed like just the ticket. A nice, quiet neighborhood tucked away in our own little slice of suburban paradise. We bought a charming 3-bedroom monstrosity smack dab in the middle of a cul-de-sac. Life was good. Then we met the neighbors. "We took the liberty of guessing the sizes," Candace chirped, stuffing a pair of robes into Kate's arms. "Of course, if anything needs adjusting, I'm right next door. See you at the block party Saturday?" With that, she left us perplexed. At the party, we were the only ones not wearing our robes. Kate feared we would be ostracized if we didn't put them on, but it was all a bit weird to me. I resisted. "It's like a toga party. Loosen up," she insisted. Reluctantly, I donned the wretched garment and mingled with our new neighbors. That was months ago, and since, things have gotten weirder. With every block party, something new has been added to the ceremony, like the masks and the chants in some ancient language. And tonight, I was presented with a ceremonial blade. I stared at the blade in my hand, thinking to myself how effed up this situation had truly got. How had I let Kate drag me into this? Candace was batshit crazy, and I was the only person in the room that could see it. Kate placed her hand on my shoulder. "What's the matter, babe?" Kate asked. "Nothing," I lied. Candace stepped into the living room, and the gathering of men and women all wearing robes turned to face her. "The offering is about to proceed," Candace said loudly. Everybody began to gather around the makeshift altar in the center of the living room. Candace gestured for myself and Kate to come forward. We both approached the altar. "Okay, Kate, lay down on the altar," Candace said, with a voice of authority. Kate laid on the altar without question. "Now stab her heart with the blade," Candace said. I gave Candace a questionable look. "No effing way. Are you actually serious?" I replied. Candace's face became angry. "We don't play games here. We serve the Lord," Candace replied coldly. I dropped the blade onto the floor and grabbed Kate's arm. I was going to drag her out of this nut house and report it to the police. Suddenly, everything went black, and when I opened my eyes, I was laying on the altar, my hands and feet both tied. And when I saw Kate standing over me, with the ceremonial blade in hand, I felt nothing but betrayal. The Cult by Jacobsloko. I carried her unconscious body to the altar while the people around me started chanting the ritual. Placing her on the altar filled me with dread, but it was necessary. Grabbing the sacrificial knife, I knew there was no coming back. It had to be done. I had a normal life before all of that. Not a good one, since I was bullied every day, but a normal one. When I met her, she promised me power. She said that her friends had the same problem, the same wish. She had me by the neck, just like her other followers. The knife entering her body somehow made the chanting louder and louder. I couldn't hear myself thinking. Then nothing. Silence. Everyone was singing those damned words, but no sound would leave their mouths. But that wasn't the last thing I heard. Her words were the last thing I heard, speaking to me through my mind. A perfect little vessel for a new goddess. Thank you, little lamb. The Cult in the Farmhouse by the Prowler. Officer James, Officer Frank James, reporting for my review of the body cam footage from the night of December 13th, 2023. Me and a handful of other officers were called to respond to a noise disturbance at the old farmhouse on Shadow Brook Road. I arrived shortly after 12 a.m. on the dot. As you see, I get out of my squad car and meet with the other officers, Officer Rogers and Officer Banks. As you can also tell, visibility was next to nothing. There are no lights on or near the property. Only the moonlight lit our surroundings. Thankfully, however, we had our flashlights. Our plan of entering the building was interrupted by faint chanting coming from inside the old dwelling. I'm not sure you can hear it on the audio, but you can see us reacting to the noise here at 12:10 on the timestamp. We then proceeded with guns drawn, and we entered the dwelling. Officer Rogers took point, and I followed with Officer Banks bringing up the rear. The dwelling was dilapidated. Pieces of the roof were caving in, with loose floorboards and holes in the floor. As you can see, we had to carefully maneuver our way through the old farmhouse. The noises became more clearer the further we moved inside the home. We could make out multiple voices, almost as if they were reading from a book. As we moved down the winding hallway, we came to a door, and as you can see, it was cracked with a dim glow of light shining through. As we approached closer to the door, the voices stopped, but for one man. He spoke in a language I've never heard before, but it sounded eerie, almost demonic. I heard Officer Rogers then mumble, "Oh my God," and without warning, kick in the door. A shot of adrenaline coursed through my heart, and I followed into the room, shouting, "Police! Get on your knees with your hands up." I could see right away why Rogers said, "Oh my God." As you see here, the room is completely surrounded and lit with candles. Symbols and writing was strewn across the walls in blood. 10 cloaked individuals were standing in the middle of the room, and at their feet laid a nude female with a knife still plunged in her chest. As I moved about the room, you can see other deceased victims propped in the corners. I believe the count was 5. Also, as you can see, I tried to get as good a shot of the writing and symbols as well. As I was doing that, however, I heard a scream come from behind me, and when I turned, I saw a cloaked member jump up and attack Officer Banks, screaming, "How dare you interrupt the cult of the Black Seeds sacrifice?" The cloaked figure stabbed Officer Banks in the forearm before I shot the figure twice, both entrance wounds in the chest. Officer Rogers and I were able to secure the scene after that. But as I sit here before you, I promise that night is a night I will never forget as long as I live. I'm not a god, But that doesn't mean we can't start a cult together. Author, unknown. It started when I was 16. I didn't have a God complex, at least not to start. I had been a staunch atheist since I was 12. I wasn't raised with a religious background, and my parents never talked about God with me. But I did read a lot, and I came across some religious and anti-religious writings and developed my own opinions. By the time I was 16, I knew that God was not what the fables made him out to be. I was young and rash and decided I was smarter than everyone, so I made it my mission to convince everyone around me. Open your eyes, sheep. Around the time I was a junior in high school, I had quite the following of misfits, outcasts, and people who just wanted to be edgy. I wasn't their leader, but they seemed to follow where I went. We delved into discussions of every faith, mythology, and belief system. We tried out tarot and Kabbalah. Nothing seemed to fit, but I could always feel something there. Something out of the ordinary was always on the fringe. I couldn't define it, but it was always there. And after a while, I realized the others felt it too. It was the glue that bound us together. It was Nathan that said it first, and I thought he was joking. We were all sitting around the graveyard, smoking cloves. The graveyard isn't an actual cemetery. It was a lot on the south end of town, where cars and old fridges were dumped. A water heater here, a busted crib there. We'd been talking about the new Christian Youth Power group that had just swept campus, when suddenly Nathan looks up, ashes his clove, and says, "There's only one God I need, and his name is Thomas." Everyone else laughed and sort of half-heartedly agreed. The thing was, it kept coming up. "Praise be unto you, for Thomas is a kind and forgiving God." By the time senior year rolled around, the Church of Thomas was in full swing. It crept up on me, but my disciples had had a busy summer. At first it was funny, freshmen coming up to me, asking me to bless them before a test, or give them the courage to ask someone to the homecoming dance. I played along because, to be honest, the power was intoxicating, and I thought it was all in fun. By the time winter break began, the COT, Church of Thomas, was in full swing, and I had no idea how large it'd grown. I was dating a girl named Megan at the time. She hadn't been one of our group, nor a disciple, but she was there because of the movement. We were out one night, seeing a movie at the Megaplex, 2 towns over. That's when I knew something was off. I went to the window. "2 tickets for The Ring, please." I was sliding a $20 bill under the window when I noticed the look on the kid's face. "No charge for you, my lord," he said with a little fear in his voice. "Excuse me?" I said with a sort of nervous laugh, thinking I might be at the end of a joke I didn't get. I asked him, "Is the movie sold out or—" Gaining a little composure, he smiled, sliding 2 tickets under the window. "God shouldn't be concerned with menial things such as money. Everything in the universe is yours, Lord Thomas." Looking to Megan, I shrugged, but felt a pit in my stomach. As we sat down in our seats, I noticed that Megan seemed utterly unbothered by what had just transpired. "Hey, did any of that seem a little weird to you?" I asked her as trivia played across the screen. "What do you mean?" Her response seemed honestly confused. "The kid at the ticket booth. That was weird, right?" I was feeling less sure at the moment. He knows you and respects you. Her response didn't assure me. I don't know him. Does he go to our school? No. But the words of your power are strong, and people are starting to realize. Kill the soulless beings to escape the New World Order. Author unknown. My friend is a journalist, and she is investigating a cult, offering its members the oldest cliche ever, the perfect life. The cult mixes various belief systems, but the basic premise focuses on the New World Order, total enslavement of humanity, and escaping it before there is no free will left, thus rendering the escape impossible. The group teaches that there are many people who are dead inside, living among us. In order to escape the planet to a better dimension, an infinite number of them, constantly evolving, one must develop a soul. Nobody has a soul to begin with. The atheistic worldview is the default one. They call it soul potential. Once the soul has been developed, you guessed it, they have the tools to detect whether a particular individual has developed a soul by applying critical thinking skills, individualism, in life, which is supposed to show inner substance. A process of catharsis begins. The process of catharsis is attaining a state of intuitive knowing, what the group calls beyond thought and doubt, where we just know what to do. Once that level is reached, one can travel to any reality upon death, even if it means going back to another Earth and reliving a different scenario of the same life. Taoists have a similar belief, if I'm not mistaken. They have philosophical dilemmas revolving around existential cheating, i.e., when you are not on good terms with someone in this reality, but you then travel to another reality where you avoid your past mistakes and subsequently develop that particular contact. Is this the same person you are interacting with? Just experiencing a different set of life scenarios? Is your interaction with them real, given how much you know about life when they are stuck in their existential bubble? They are obsessed with cryonics, simulation hypotheses, holographic bodies, parallel universes, extraterrestrials, interdimensionals, ad infinitum. What's so scary about them then, you ask? Well, remember the soul detector I wrote about? Just like other creeds, who have a duty to kill the unbelievers in order to escape hell, the members of the cult have a duty to kill organic portals, soulless individuals, because it shows their own soul potential. There are no rules whatsoever when it comes to the organic portals. The OPs, as they are referred to, are to be killed, tortured, maimed, wherever they are found. The OP is seen as the embodiment of systemic control, of the upcoming New World Order, their version of hell. Christmas Dinner. Author unknown. From my room down in the basement, I can hear everyone being busy upstairs. I can hear Mrs. O'Leary scolding her daughter Tara for not watching the pie. I can hear Mr. O'Leary's laugh while he tells stories to the kids. I can hear some of them run and play. There's chatter everywhere, and it seems to have a very happy atmosphere upstairs. After all, it's Christmas. After a few more hours, the noisiness turned to silence, a silence so deafening that my heart started to beat faster. Minutes later, my room was opened by Tara and forced me to come upstairs. "It'll be fine, I swear," she told me with her comforting eyes. Tara has been good to me ever since I stayed in their home. I can't clearly remember when I started living here. They feed me lots of food, but I never go upstairs. They never let me. At first, it was hard, but for months, I got used to it, and it seems that all they do is take care of me, never harm me. As I climb my way through the creaky old stairs, I can hear murmurs from them. Some of them are giggling, and some of them are claiming they're too excited to see me. I never knew these people, but that was a sign that they welcomed me as family. When I finally reached the top, the light from their living room shone on my eyes. They were blinding, yet it felt good to finally see what upstairs looked like. The walls were yellow and bright. The windows are full of decorations. It seems to be a very happy place, just like I saw on the faces of the O'Leary's visitors. The smiles on their faces are very heartwarming and welcoming. Mr. O'Leary stood up and walked to me as he was smoking through his wooden pipe. I've never seen him this close, or maybe because I've only seen him in the dark. "Merry Christmas, sir," I said. He walked behind me and replied, "Sure, Christmas." His reply sounded sarcastic, and I felt fear. Without a second to lose, Mr. O'Leary held both of my hands behind me and pushed me. Everyone cheered and started to pull me until I was lying at the center of the dining table. Everyone around me started tying ropes, so tight that I can hardly breathe. I looked at Tara while her relatives were locking me down. Her sweet smile turned to grim. Her comforting eyes are now filled with evil. When it was sure that I can't move anymore, they all stood up around me and held hands. Everyone bowed down and closed their eyes, except Mr. O'Leary. He looked up, and with the deepest voice, he shouted, "To the winter solstice, to Mithra, the sun god." And everyone shouted the same. Before that Jesus kid was born, everyone worshipped our gods. Now, they're all forgotten, and we pagans take on to their wrath. Mrs. O'Leary said in a very happy voice, "Now, if everyone pleases, let's start our celebration, shall we? Dig in." At that moment, the last thing I saw was the wall that used to be yellow and bright, splattered with my very own blood. The Tour Guide. Unknown author. On your left, you will see 10 complete strangers living in a room. They will remain together in the room for 1 week, or until one person is left. Inside of the room is 1 chair, 1 bed, and 1 book. Typically, there will be 1 criminal, 1 hippie, and 1 corporate executive among the 10 people. Of course, we have done studies where each individual was of the same job type, sexual preference, religion, and so on. However, the results seldom vary. On average, a group lasts 31 hours. Interesting side note, when we put 10 cult leaders together in the room, they lasted longer than any other group at 87 hours. As you can see, this particular group is entering the 11th hour, and already groups have formed. Ah, Subject 10 has begun fighting with Subject 8 over the book. Let's see what happens, shall we? This is the third fight over the book already between these two. It could get ugly this time. Oh my. Subject 10 broke a leg off of the chair and is waving it at Subject 8. You may want to look away. The rage in her eyes is... Okay. Yes, she drove the chair leg into his neck. You would think that knowing they were being watched would change their behavior, but it doesn't. We just hate each other so much, don't we? Now, if you'll step this way and look to your right. That time of year. Author unknown. They're outside, gathered in groups of 2 to 4, some roaming house to house, others just sitting and staring, not moving a single muscle. I should start at the beginning, I guess. It was a normal day for October, a bit warmer than normal, but I wasn't complaining. I like having the windows open, fresh air and all that. I was flipping through the channels since I'd just finished binge-watching the new season of American Horror Story on Netflix when the news caught my attention. It said that there was a rash of home invasion deaths. All they knew was that the screens to windows and doors were torn open, and they think that is how they were gaining entry. The bodies of men, women, children, pets, it didn't matter, were stripped of skin and left to rot. No one knew who it was, but there were theories being thrown around like crazy. Some said the killer clowns were to blame. Others said a cult started on the internet. Others still said some religious bull. We started noticing it yesterday. They weren't running and playing like usual. Sure, they'd stop and stare every once in a while, but you usually ignore that. Then the screams started. Now I'm holed up here in my house, cursing the fact that I just had to live in the country by some woods. I'm seriously outnumbered here. After all, it's the time of year squirrels gather their food. So much for a protector. Unknown author. They never understood our problem. I doubt anyone ever will. It's just really sad that after all these years, no one believes us, and no one ever survives. No one. We tried a doctor. He didn't believe it. Said if we would like to have an appointment with a psychiatrist. We just left. We knew it already started. We tried a normal citizen. She said I was nuts, a hillbilly. The others chased us away from the neighborhood. They're taking over. We went to the church, seeking the parish priest, hoping that he would understand. But he, a man supposed to be an instrument of God, is now under it. He's no use. We still tried, although I already knew it's already over. Soon, they will have it spread all over the town and have it at their control. Me and my daughter stole a car and drove away, aiming for the next town, hoping that we can prevent the cult's evil plans. A cop gave a chase. So much for a protector. I had no choice. I shot him in the head. He stumbled all over the road and continuously twitched and gasped for air. Poor man, I muttered as I performed the Holy Cross. I ran over him to end his suffering. But even though I should have expected it, it still surprised me that he got up, his head replaced with a tentacled parasite of the plague. The Old Spanish Mission. I'm nervous. Adrenaline is pumping through my veins. I just made the find of the century while excavating a cave in the Mojave Desert, an occult relic that I've been searching for ages now. One of the Book of Three, an ancient text of the dark arts and demonology. The book I found is Book 2. After years of painstaking research, I tracked it down to the Ortega Caves, and there it sat buried beneath the earth in an altar room, surrounded by skeletons, which means the legend is true. You see, hundreds of years ago, when the conquistadors were still exploring this part of the continent, a small group under the command of Captain Ortega happened upon a ritual being performed by a rogue group of Catholic monks. The monks were reading from the book, a book to conjure demons, and they were trying to summon Soulless, the demon of shit and other unholy excrements. Captain Ortega and his men were horrified at the sight they walked in on. It was rumored they walked in on the monks, covered in their own feces, surrounded by several lit brown candles and the hollowed-out anuses of several animal and nomad corpses. What happened next, no one will ever truly know. It's been debated by experts of Soulless and the occult alike. There was a lone survivor of the incident, however, a conquistador named Raul Esteban, who staggered into camp half alive, reeking of the most foulest odor anyone has ever smelled, like 1,000 chamber pots left baking in the hot desert sun. He told the others what he and the group walked in on, and claimed he actually saw a brown sludge-like demon being resurrected before Captain Ortega threw a lit stick of dynamite at the altar. But in his hastiness, he didn't realize that would cause a cave-in, and that's exactly what happened. There's no way of 100% confirming Raul's story. Like the report says, he was on death's door and delirious when he staggered into camp. But he claimed he saw the manifestation of Soulless. Experts don't seem to agree. But whatever the case, I have the second book, and I'm trying to get as far away from the cave as possible. There's plenty of people out there that want this book just as much as I, from wealthy collectors, the church, explorers like myself, and even cults that worship Soulless, who need this book to resurrect their odorous demon lord. Plenty of people that would kill for this book. I have to get away. Far, far away. On a dark desert highway, I found myself, with a hot breeze blowing through my hair. I had been driving for hours. I had to find a place to stop for the night. There was a strong smell emanating from the book. A thick, foul-smelling, repugnant odor permeated the air, like old gym socks that had been greased in shit and left to bake in an oven for 50 years. I finally happened upon an orange glow in the distance. It was a hotel, the Old Spanish Mission, it was called, and they had a vacancy. I pulled in and saw a man standing in the door. As I got out and collected my bags and the book, I heard him say, "Welcome to the Old Spanish Mission." I nodded to him, and as I got closer, he struck a match and lit a brown candle, then turned and showed me to the front desk. Strange, I thought. You don't see too many brown candles. Where have I heard about brown candles before? Damn it. In my tiredness, I can't think straight. Oh well, I'm sure it will come to me. The proprietor went behind the desk and proceeded to tell me a short history about the hotel. Something about it being founded by a group of Catholic monks hundreds of years ago. Blah, 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 this and that. I'm sorry, I was tired and cut him off. I apologized for cutting his history lesson short, but I informed him I had been driving all day and night and was very, very tired. I just wanted the key and to go to sleep. He grinned slightly and said, "Very well, sir." Then said room 2 and handed me a key. I thanked him and grabbed my bags, then proceeded to my room. On my way, I checked my surroundings. The hotel was old and the corridors long and winding. They seemed to echo, almost speaking to me. I stopped at my room and grinned, then shook my head. That's just ridiculous, I thought. I'm just tired. Nothing a good night's sleep won't cure. I slid my key into the doorknob and went inside the room. It was damp and musty. The walls were maroon and the bedspread was brown. Paintings of desert caves and landscapes adorned the walls. It wasn't much. I've stayed in better, but I just needed some sleep. I put my things away, went to the bathroom to wash my face. I changed clothes and slid into bed, instantly falling asleep when my head hit the pillow. My dream seemed to hit me right away. Nightmares of the book and the conquistadors, cornering the monks in the cave, stools above being summoned, and blanketing the earth in his brown sludge of terror. I don't know how long I'd been sleeping and dreaming, but I was suddenly awoken by loud, painful screams. I sat up quickly, my heart racing. I tried to compose myself and catch my breath. As I started to lay back down, something wafted past my nostrils. I almost gagged. It smelled of colitis and old assholes. I sat back up, working my nostrils, trying to find where that funk was coming from. I got up out of bed and followed the smell to the vent. It was coming from the other room. I pounded on the wall and shouted, "What the hell is going on over there? People can't sleep when it smells like desert swamp ass next door." It was silent at first, but then more loud, painful screaming could be heard. This was fucking ridiculous, I thought. Someone was either brutally being murdered or they were sitting on the toilet, taking the most wickedest shit in human recorded history. The pain and the strain in this man's voice was unbearable. Poor bastard. "Don't worry. Help is on the way," I shouted. I quickly rushed to the phone and called the front desk for help. But nothing. No answer. I hung up and tried again. Still nothing. While standing there, however, I looked down and noticed the flap on my bag opened. I bent down to see if anything was missing, and to my horror, I realized the book was gone. I slammed the phone down and went out to the front desk. No one was there. Not the man, not anyone. The only thing that greeted me was funk, a disturbing odor that singed the nostrils, burning the hair inside like an unstoppable wildfire. I stood there dazed, bewildered, contemplating life's choices up to that point, when I hear a door creak open behind me. It was the room next to me. I hesitantly moved towards the cracked open door. A glow from candles could be seen, lighting the room inside. As I reached the door, I was hit with the old familiar, a combination of death and ass. Do my eyes deceive me, or am I actually seeing a green cloud emanate from the room? My hand started to tremble as I placed it on the door handle. My gag reflexes were working overtime, so I didn't blow chunks all over myself. I gathered the courage and flung the door open. I was greeted with 1,000 brown-lit candles, and at that point, I remembered the brown-lit candle was needed in a stools above conjuring ceremony. They were circling a brown pentagram, and in the middle of the pentagram sat a man, writhing in pain, atop a toilet. He was the one I heard screaming in pain earlier. The poor man was seemingly struggling for his life, veins protruding, voice screaming. It seemed he was pushing out something big. I panned to my left and saw the man from the front desk grinning, surrounded by cloaked individuals in the corner of the room. He was holding my book. Then the two people next to him pulled out two more books. I stood there horrified. They have the book of the three. The man laughed, thanking me for picking the old Spanish mission to stay at, for uniting the books. I watched as they placed the books on the altar, then surrounded the man on the toilet. They began to speak an unholy incantation. The toilet began to shiver and shake, the pipes creaking within the walls as something made its way through them. Then silence, an eerie, deafening silence filled the building. Just then the silence was broken by the man on the toilet. One final horrific scream. Then, like 1,000 bagpipes, his ass began to play the sourest of notes ever heard by the human ear. The rancid orchestra that was emanating from his anus was then followed by the demon lord of shit himself, Stoolzabub. Like a wrestler walking out to his own theme song, he emerged from the now dead man's ass, triumphant, ready to rule his unearthly kingdom. I screamed as he winked at me. I then turned and ran back to my room and locked the door. I sat not knowing what to do. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the room, staring at the paintings again. My God, the desert cave, the hotel when it was a Catholic mission, and a painting of monks. I then remembered the story I brushed off about the hotel originally being founded as an old mission by monks hundreds of years ago. Jesus, it's the rogue group of monks that tried to bring Stoolzabub to life those hundreds of years ago. This is their church. It's over. I'm finished. I can hear them chanting outside. I smell the end that is approaching my door. If you find this tape recorder, know I died horrifically. And remember, you can check out, but you can never leave. I would like to give a heartfelt thank you to the special friends of the channel for your overwhelming generosity. If you would like to support the channel, the link is below in the description. Also, please send me your stories and poems to duchessofdarkness27@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram at duchess.ofdarkness and Twitter at duchessofdarkn2. I want to thank all my listeners for your kindness, your encouragement, and your support. It means the world to me. Thank you for joining me. Until next time.